The fact that you can make a payment doesn't mean you have to. If you're renting,
Yeah.
that's what I think. I may be wrong, I don't know. But if you're renting, it's because right now you cannot afford a house. We definitely need here every Friday with us.
Yeah, because she knows what she's doing.
Welcome back to the Real Talk Miami. This is season 2, but we have the same crew. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good to be back, I guess.
Welcome back, guys.
Yeah, there's been a change of environment. We decided we needed to find a bigger location because we have big things coming, guys. So we've missed you. We've missed doing this. I'm pretty sure all of us. And there's been a lot of things that have been going on in the real estate market this year. It's only 4 months in.
And a lot of changes to come.
More changes to come, absolutely, guys.
It's funny because as we've been doing the marketing and like you watch previous clips, you see how the market has slowly transitioned, and now that you look back, you're like, wow, what a big change.
Yeah, you can see it throughout since we started. It's a whole different market right now.
Yeah.
Really, really different.
No, I mean, the scare last year was the EVVA, but we're already 8 months in since those changes happened, and I think I already got accustomed to it. It's not even a big deal.
It's just part. I think it's become part of the process.
Yeah.
I will say though, the market feels a little slow to start the year, in particular buyers, because I mean, inventory's been going up like crazy. We predicted this too, by the way.
We did.
In the video that we made for 2025 predictions. We said that the market was going to shift into a buyer's market. And there was
I didn't think that it was going to be as slow, though. I thought that it was going to pick up pace.
I thought more people were going to be happy to buy, but the problem is the interest rates.
Interest rates, change of presidency, and different situations.
There's a lot going on right now in the politics. There's a lot, of course, there's interest rate too. But I also hope that buyers, was expected by this time of the year, we were having a lot of more buyers because inventory is skyrocketing. We have new constructions. We have houses all over Miami. And it's kind of weird. That's why some people said there's like a crash coming. But still, I don't feel like it.
I think a lot of people are just... Last year, they were holding off because of the elections and because of that uncertainty. I feel like right now, people are waiting not because of uncertainty, but because they have strong beliefs that prices and interest rates are going to go down ASAP. Yeah, I don't think that's the case right now.
They're going up. I mean, they've been steady this whole month. Yeah. It's like 672 right now.
I mean, they've been
no interest rates. Okay, 672 more or less.
Prices are going to go down in the short term, but not as much or as drastic as people think.
Yeah, we had a huge increase of prices. Also, the shift that's going on right now, you can barely see it because it's too slow for what people can afford. Yeah,
in the short term, prices are going to go down in Miami, but in the long term, Miami is always going to continue increasing. There's going to be more people, not just from out of state, but from out of the country.
Out of the country.
All of that migration to Miami is 100% going to cause Miami prices to skyrocket in the long run.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Which takes us to the other side of, if you're not buying, you're renting. And that's kind of the topic that we're going to be talking about here today.
Pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
I got to say, this is an interesting one to take. This is an interesting one to take. This has been the whole debate of a lifetime. Some people said it's better to buy. Some people say it's better to rent. Yeah. Everybody has their reasons, but there's pros and cons.
And I think definitely more recently, or at least this generation, we've seen more tendency for people to rent versus purchase a home, whether it's by choice or circumstances.
I think
cost of living.
It's more
cost of living.
Cost of living is skyrocketing.
It's too high.
Yeah. So it is. Back then, they were able to buy a home with 10 peanuts, a raspberry, and 25 cents.
Definitely, you'll see it as the generations change. You see the difference, especially with Gen X and Gen Z. You notice more of a shift towards
we're
renting.
seeing right now huge companies like BlackRock and Vanguard acquiring huge pieces of land and developing new houses, also buying current built houses, older houses to remodel. Yeah. There's a whole neighborhood right there in Hialeah. I have some friends that they told me all this block, this is going to take it down. It's going to be taken down eventually. But there was a company that bought the entire block.
Wow.
Houses are not
Yeah,
for
they're
rent.
redeveloping.
Yeah, houses are not for rent there, but they all belong to a company that's going to redevelop all the area.
Wow, that's insane, the big change. So I guess we should list out first the pros of buying.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm going to start off with the most simplest one, right? Buying a home gives you the ability to personalize your home, right? When you
Yeah.
rent,
That's a female point of view.
that is a female point of view, but it's the
but
most
it's a good one.
But it's the most, it's the simplest one, and I feel like we should start from simpler to more complicated or more heavier topics of discussion.
Of
I think
course.
the easiest one and the most obvious is personalization. When you buy your home, you get to make it your own. And I know that it sounds more female-like, but I feel like when you rent a property, if you start making changes, you never know when you're going to be asked to move out.
And sometimes you cannot make a change. You're not
And you
allowed
cannot
to.
make a change. But if you are
Yeah.
making changes and you just invest all of that money, you're really not helping
Always get
yourself,
the-
you're helping the landlord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but always get the landlord's approval before making any
100%.
Yeah, of course.
drastic changes to the property. Because most of them are going to let you paint the house. They could care less about that. But, you know, if you're going to try to
Change the tile.
sublease it or something like that and change the tiles, exactly,
Yeah.
you might want to get permission first. All of that stuff is usually...
No, but I agree with you 100% because, well, you guys know me. I like to do my own stuff. I'm a DIY person. I like to keep my house in good shape, of course. But I also like plants and also like animals. And me and my wife, we've been talking about getting chicks and all that, but you cannot do that if you're renting.
No.
Yeah, we have the space. We can do it. In theory, we could do it, but
But the landlord
the
won't
landlord
approve that.
won't allow it. I don't know even if the city is gonna allow it.
Yeah, you might have to go to the Redlands.
The Redlands homestead far off.
Yeah.
So
That's for most properties, or like they allow that kind
Oh,
of stuff.
I showed a house like 2 weeks ago. That would be my dream house here in Homestead.
It was in
Huge
Homestead?
backyard. They have a chicken coop in the back. Man, that was a beautiful house for like a homestead.
So now we know that Javier's favorite point on why to buy a home is personalization.
Yeah.
What would
that's
be
a
point
very
number
good
2?
one.
Point number 2, definitely. I guess it's one of the most obvious ones is your building equity in your home.
Appreciation.
Yeah, an appreciation. And when you build up that equity, you know, your net worth is going to go up, and you're also going to be able to use that equity for other things that you want to in the home. For example, if you want to personalize the home, you could get a HELOC,
You should get
credit line, you know, and just buy whatever you want, fix it up however you want. I think that's one of the most powerful things that real estate has to offer.
Appreciation.
Appreciation.
Yeah, increasing your net worth through the years. It's a huge tool in everybody's hands. You can start business. You can, I don't know, even take a trip. If you have I don't know 100,000 in equity, you're not going to spend all, of course.
Yeah,
but
of
you
course.
can take
They won't give you all.
Yeah, of course. But you can make that trip of your dreams if you have to spend 15 maybe, and you can do it because you have it.
And I think that's really neat about real estate, seeing your investment, right? Because buying a home is an investment,
Yeah,
whether
it
you're
is.
going to live in it or you choose to rent it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like in comparison to investing in the stock market, this is something that's tangible. And there's nothing better, or at least it makes you feel at peace,
Yeah.
knowing that your property is
It's right
there,
there. It's right
and it's
there.
not going up or down. On the contrary, like we've talked, it tends to appreciate.
No, even if it goes down sometimes because of the market or whatever happens, like it happened in the past, it's up again.
Yeah.
Go back to 2008, and you see the prices that the house reached and big crash, and the prices right now.
But on average,
On
you're not
average,
going to
no,
get such
yeah.
a volatile swing like
Of
Yeah,
course.
unless something like
Stock market.
2008 happens, which, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, because, I mean, that was just a disaster.
Yeah, it was.
A disaster.
and mainly due to the mortgage lending industry.
Yeah, it was primarily caused by that.
Yeah. So I think that appreciation's a big one. What about you, Javier?
Tax benefits. It's the other main benefit you get from buying a house. You can apply. You could apply for a homestead exemption, and you can keep a lot of money on your pocket too, because you own a house.
Yeah.
So that's a huge point. It could save you a lot of money every year. By the way, you guys have heard, I guess, about the governor of Florida trying to take down property taxes.
Yep.
I heard about that.
That could be really interesting. For what I read, it was like you're gonna pay property taxes once you buy a house, and like most of the countries that I know, they were like that. You buy a house, you pay the property taxes, and that's it. The house is yours. You have to still pay to the lender, of course, but the house is yours. Because there's a big debate of why you should keep paying the government if you already paid your house.
Paid the property.
So it will be interesting to see if that law gets to the... I don't know.
And how Miami reacts to that.
Yeah, because taxes are locally, so it have to be like an amendment on the Constitution or something like that, I guess.
I think there's definitely going to be a long...
That's a long run.
If that were to happen, it's going to be in the long
what you guys think? What do you guys think that could happen if property taxes are taken down here in Florida?
I think the cost will transfer over to something else. I don't think the consumer ever really wins, in my opinion.
Yeah, but with the market...
What do you think?
I agree with Luis. I think they will always find a way to make that money back, because we're talking about thousands of dollars
billions.
That's coming into the government.
Yeah.
No, I mean, with the market, I mean, I think that would be a plus for real estate.
A lot more people, I guess, would be willing to purchase properties.
And more money in your pocket. I mean, some houses pay $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 in taxes every single year. So,
let me do. This is not a too far scenario, because Wisconsin took down state taxes.
Wisconsin, yeah.
I think it was Wisconsin, right?
But I think regardless sorry to interrupt, but I think regardless of whether or not they pass that down the line, I think really it's gonna have an influence on people that can afford purchasing a home. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So I don't think it's really gonna impact people that can afford that's not gonna swing them to want to purchase or to be able to purchase. Correct. It's only gonna make a difference for people that already have the capital, that are already in the process of purchasing. Because at the end of the day, that's something that's gonna be of benefit to them after the fact, not before the fact. So I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah. And another thing, on top of the tax benefits, you get to write off if you have a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage on the property, you get to write off the interest as a deductible. And
stability as well is another plus. No rent increases.
Yeah, there's no rent increases. Your mortgage is fixed. As a matter of fact, if you make one extra big payment a year on your mortge,
it's like 7 years off, right?
Yeah, it would take like 7 or 6 years off your mortgage, something so big like that.
Huge.
So there's something nice to know that the house that you're living in is yours, and that
of course,
the next month you're not gonna have your landlord knocking on your door saying, "Hey, we've increased the rent by $200." So there's definitely some sort of comfort and peace knowing that there's stability.
Peace of mind. That's it. It's your house. It is.
There's a lot of sunshine and rainbows though, because I know there's some cons for being an owner of a home as well, right?
Very true. Upfront cost, down payment, closing costs. A lot of times people underestimate. I think buyers sometimes they underestimate. Never lived in another state, but in Miami, especially with the prices of homes and the prices of buying, the cost involved in buying a property. I think a lot of times people just focused on the cost of the home itself, but they forget that there's other stuff involved. Closing costs is one of those big points.
Yeah, closing costs. I mean, there's no definite number as to what your closing costs are going to be, but it's a lot of money. I mean, it could range. It depends what you buy as well. But for a single family home, $500,000-$600,000, you're gonna pay upwards of $15,000 maybe in closing costs, or maybe possibly more.
Around that number.
And then the down payment, I mean, 3.5 is the lowest you could probably go. But if, for example, you're buying an apartment, some people think that they could buy just about any condominium here in Miami with a 3.5% down payment. But that's not the case.
That's not the case.
You have to check if they have reserves, if they're Fannie Mae approved. And if they're not, you have to put 20%.
Because
it could cost you more.
No, 100%. Just because inventory is going up doesn't necessarily mean that there is enough of what you're looking for and what fit your criteria. So, again, we get this often with condominiums. Condominiums are such a hot topic right now, but they're also a very difficult one. Here in Miami, Florida, it's... Not only is it difficult to find ones that are FHA approved, but then again, you also have to take into account the additional costs. What are you going to need to have on hand? Because you never want to underestimate. You want to make sure that you overestimate. What do I need to have on hand readily? Down payment, closing cost, realtor fees, etc.
Yeah.
Inspections, appraisals.
And many more.
It adds up. It adds up.
Next, any other negatives?
Maintenance and repairs. We're talking of you're gonna have to do everything to your house. If your house needs a new roof, new AC unit, you have to pay for it
Yourself.
Yeah, that's a huge cost because if you're talking about AC, we're talking about 5,000, maybe 6, between to get it a new one. If we're talking about a roof, we could be talking about 25K, and that's a good money to pay.
Yeah.
Sometimes insurance companies are not gonna be right there to help you do that. So definitely, if you're planning to buy a house, you should save some money because 100%. You never know. I mean, if you get a good agent, a good realtor, you've got a good inspection. You gotta make sure that your house is not gonna need a roof like in 10 years or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. But in the event of some hurricane here in Florida, we're in Florida. That could happen this year. That could happen here. We don't have earthquake. We don't have anything, but we have hurricanes. So in the event that your roof doesn't get the full damage and you have to cover the cost of repairing, that could be some money. I'm a big follower of Dave Ramsey's teachings for calling it some way, and he recommends to keep a fund for your emergencies. So that's a good recommendation. Try to keep some money away that you don't need it. Maybe you could put, I don't know.
What's that rule that you have?
I mean, I believe maybe. So I used to watch the Susie Orman show, and Susie Orman used to recommend, I believe, and apologize if I'm misquoting it, anywhere between 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's the same as his.
To be able to live off comfortably. And I think that's more of like a financial advice in general.
Yeah.
But I think that when you decide to make that move and become a homeowner, I mean, there are going to be costs associated. But at the end of the day, like we say in Spanish, lo barato sale caro, right? So sometimes renting is going to be much more expensive than the investment that you're going to be making to repair your home here and there.
I got an example for that. I got a friend, he lives right here in Doral. He's paying right now for $4,200 for his house. Wow. He's renting right now.
$4,200.
Yeah, every month.
And for that, he could get a mortgage.
He got a $700 increase from last year to this year. Like this.
That is very drastic.
He lives in a good neighborhood, a nice house, but you are throwing. I said it in one of my videos. The fact that you can make a payment doesn't mean you have to. If you're renting, that's what I think. I may be wrong. I don't know, but if you're renting, it's because right now you cannot afford a house.
Yeah.
So try to keep it between your needs. Don't go to live, I don't know, some place real in bad conditions, but try to live comfortable because you deserve it. You need to, but don't throw away your money.
I think one of the best advices that I've heard, or the best comments related to financial responsibility, is a lot of people think that their credit cards are an extension of their salary.
Oh, man.
They really do.
That's a hot topic, too.
They really do. And I think it's two things, Javier. I don't think it's just financial irresponsibility. I also think it's lack of knowledge. Because a lot of people don't know that they're ready to afford a home. They just misunderstand, or they assume that they don't have what's needed, instead of consulting with a mortgage lender or their realtor. I think that's what happened. It's number one, either truly they have a lack of finances, or number two, they're just assuming that they're not ready and they don't have what it takes. If you consult with a mortgage lender, you'll be able to get that question answered once and for all.
Preach. That's true.
Amen.
So that's enough about ownership. We're making it seem like renting is the worst thing that's ever happened.
And it's not. It's not.
It's not.
What are the pros when it comes to renting?
I think it's funny because a lot of the stuff that we've talked about or discussed for today's episode, it goes like it's a topic for both purchasing and renting. Flexibility, right? With renting, you have a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, though, because when you're renting, you're typically in a 12-month lease, a 1-year lease.
Yeah.
So as far as flexibility goes, it's debatable. But definitely when you have a property, you got to make sure that you see the process to its end. And sometimes it may just take longer than a year to sell. Not in all scenarios. If you have a good realtor who understands the market, who prices it correctly, who gives it the proper exposure, it should definitely sell before the year. But if you're the type of seller who is not wanting to price it correctly because you believe your home is worth more, or you're not informed on the market conditions, then the property may just take longer than a year, and it will set you back for sure.
For some people, a year is better than 30 years.
30 years.
That's definitely. And I don't think it's as bad to have an eviction in your record. I mean, they're both bad. But in comparison to if you compare an eviction and a foreclosure, I think a foreclosure is a lot worse because it stays in your record for like 7 years, I think, in some cases. So, but yeah, definitely they're a lot more flexible. You can move in and out.
What is the quote that Uncle Ben says in Spider-Man? What is the quote Uncle Ben says in Spider-Man?
Oh, that's a little time since I saw that movie.
Yeah, that's the best Spider-Man in my opinion.
That's the best quote ever. And I don't know it, funny enough, but that's a really good quote.
With great powers come great
responsibilities. Foreclosure is much worse than an eviction on your record.
They both suck, for the record.
Yeah. Correct,
Yeah,
but it's much worse to have a foreclosure because purchasing a home comes with that much more responsibility. So, again,
eviction, you're just in the eyes of a landlord, you're gonna look like like a red flag.
It will come to haunt you because again,
but sometimes emergencies happen.
Life could happen like this.
Sadly.
Yeah, it is.
Typically, and I actually want to mention this because now that we're talking about renting, obviously always consult when it comes to purchasing with a mortgage lender. But the typical documents for renting, they're quite simple. They're quite self-explanatory, and most people will always ask for the same documentation. Obviously, it's going to vary based on the leasing agent. But I just want to go over it because perhaps maybe our viewers out there, they don't know. You need your driver's license. Okay, we're going to need driver's license for identification. We're going to need 2 to 3 months of pay stubs. 2 to 3 months of bank statements. We got to verify that there's money coming in and readily available to be able to pay your rent. Yep. Typically, they will ask anywhere between 2 to 3 months of the rent itself. So it can range anywhere between first month, last month security deposit, or a first month and 2 security deposits.
That's the most common scenario right now here in Miami.
The 2 security deposits. And typically what we've been seeing now more than I think last year is people asking, the landlord asking for 2 months instead of 3 months, just because the market is wanting to negotiate people. or is wanting to go with the 2-month option. So since the market is demanding that, the landlords are seeing that and they're selling more for 2 months. Am I missing anything else? Credit report, 100%,
background checks,
and a background check.
We can get that.
We can definitely get the credit report, and in our credit reports, the ones that we prepare, we'll be able to see any criminal activity, any prior evictions. If not, then you can always go to your local police department and you can ask them for a background check or a police report. But that's the typical document. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, let's add because it brings us to the next point as well. The move-in costs in comparison to buying a home, like we mentioned earlier, sometimes it could be as high as a 25% down payment. With a rental, as Jazmine just mentioned, you got the first month, last month, and security, or it could be first month and security. I've even seen 1 month, but not many people. I mean, one security deposit.
Yeah, so if it's a $2,000 monthly rent, then we're talking about 3 months of rent, $6,000.
And the deposit is usually returned to you as well towards the end, as long as everything is in good condition as it was. It'll be returned to you.
It'll be returned. So definitely costs are much lower than purchasing a home. So perhaps that sounds intriguing to you. Any other pros?
Yeah, of course. Like the opposite of the maintenance. You don't have any maintenance costs if you rent.
Very, very low.
You don't have to pay for if the AC breaks. You just call the landlord. If you have a leak, you call Lion Plumbing. Whatever happens, the owner has to get the repairs done. Get the repairs done, and that's it. You're free of that. In the event of you break anything, of course you're gonna pay.
And typically in the lease agreement and the contract to lease is what we prepare for you guys when you're putting an offer on a rental. But typically it'll state in the lease agreement, that the tenant will cover any minor repairs up to $100, $150, $200 I've seen before. So those minor things, those are things that the tenant themselves will cover. But anything after that, it's a landlord's responsibility to be on top.
100%.
Nice.
So a lot of pros.
A lot of pros.
But what are the cons?
The cons.
No equity.
Yeah.
No equity.
You don't make any money for living in a property.
No. You're not building for your future.
You're not building your net worth. And I think that's a huge con. That's a huge, because you're wasting all the money. Every month you're wasting $3,000, $2,000 something. In the country of the buying property, besides of the interest that you pay every month, you're keeping that money because that builds on the equity of your house.
And let's talk about rent increases as well.
Yeah.
that variability and that instability, because you really don't know when it's coming, where it's coming from.
I mean, look, in the example of Javier's friend just now.
Yeah, $700.
$700.
$700.
But
From January to
can you really blame the landlord though? Because if insurance costs keep going up, if property taxes keep going up. What are they? I mean, some landlords. I know some people who have been living in a property for 20 years and they've been paying the same rent, $1,400. If you have a landlord like that, I mean, I probably wouldn't be able to buy a home
got
either.
a case. I know a case.
It's easy to get.
It's a family member. He lives right here in Dollar 2, and the owner, not even the owner of the whole building, they are good friends, and they have been living there for 9 years, I think.
And they pay the same rent?
Haven't increased the rent. If you go right now to lease an apartment there, you're gonna pay like.
But there's a risk with renting the family. If you increase the rent on the family member, there's no longer
you're gonna have a beef with.
Well, the thing that happens with these landlords that have tenants that have been living there for years, most of those landlords bought these properties years ago, and they have the property free and clear.
Yep.
So really, all of these increases aren't affecting them as much as it would a new investor that on top of the mortgage cost has those increases in insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
True.
So
yeah, and some people, they're not money hungry. Like, not everybody gets into real estate with the purpose of wanting to invest and grow a portfolio. Like, some people just they paid off a house, they probably moved to another city and they wanted to keep the property, so I'll rent it out, and they prefer to have a steady tenant, one that they know, that they get along with well, that has been reliable for many years, instead of having to go through a process of increasing the rent and losing this one and having to do a background check and rinse and repeat the same process over and over again. Sometimes it's better to just keep that reliable one that you have already.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's definitely control on the...
If you have somebody living in a property that you're renting for 9 years, and there's no major break-ins of anything, you're gonna have to keep it.
It's definitely worth more than the money that they're gonna increase.
Of course, because that family is not gonna making you lose money. They are keeping your apartment in good condition, so you can rest in peace every night.
So definitely on that end, we see control on the landlord side, which is peace of mind of who's living in their property. But as far as negatives for renting, I'd say there's a lack of control. There's a lack of control for the renter side. So we gotta see that as well.
You don't have any stability, and you don't have the guarantee that your lease is gonna be renewed.
Oh yeah, that's another thing.
If you're living right there right now, but if the landlord needs the house, he could not renew you. You have to move, and that's gonna cost you money.
Yeah.
So that's another con.
Or if the landlord decides to sell the property.
Of course.
So that's
or sometimes the landlord has sometimes you have a case where let's say it's a duplex. The landlord lives in one unit and the other one is rented out, and then the landlord's kid gets to the age of 18. Maybe they want the kid to get independent, so I've seen it happen. That's why I've seen it happen. So definitely less stability on the how do you call it, on the renting side.
On the renting side, there's pros and cons to everything. I definitely think that if you're able to afford it, you should definitely, my personal opinion, is definitely invest in a property. Real estate is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, you also have that added bonus of.
So who should buy and who should rent?
I think that's what I was gonna say. I think it just depends on everyone's circumstances.
Of course.
It depends on the
I
circumstances.
think it depends on the circumstances.
It's no one size fits all.
But would you guys say there's like a perfect time for buying? Like
No, it depends on the circumstances.
I think as soon as you can do it, do it.
Yeah, of course.
I think you're missing out. You're missing out on the feeling of owning a home, that American dream. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's the truth.
It is.
There's nothing better than owning your own property. But then you're also missing out on the influx of capital. You're building capital. Like, it's a win-win. And especially with the high costs associated with living in Miami, Florida. Again, if you can afford it, why not? It does not hurt you.
And just because you could afford a $900,000 house doesn't mean that you should go for a $900,000 house.
Course.
Sometimes it's better to just maintain the way that you're living, and instead of with each increase in your income, to buy fancier stuff. Try to maintain the lifestyle that you currently have, and then save up that money and then buy another property. Who knows?
Am I right to assume that all of us are on the side of purchasing a home?
Well, 100%. I'm on the side of purchasing a home. But if you have the personal circumstances that allow you to do that, it allow you to do that because it's a serious investment. It's not something to take it lightly. You're taking mostly a 30-year commitment to pay mortgage every month.
Yeah.
If you're able to do so, you have the conditions. I really suggest you to do so. There's a lot of people out there that want to purchase a house and they can't. We got the experience really fresh.
Yeah.
With that family, that beautiful family, they couldn't. They make the money, but they don't qualify this year. They have to wait. They have to keep it there.
Yeah.
So if you have, it's not only the money, it's your personal circumstances too. Because maybe you are from New York and you have the money, but you're here studying FIU. You want to get back to New York. That's an example. You're working in a hospital or something.
Yeah.
You want to get back to New York. You're not going to buy a house. Well, at least I wouldn't buy a house. But if your personal circumstances allow you to buy a house, I think you should invest it. You should keep your money in your pocket every month. You should try to build your net worth every month because it's on a monthly basis.
And it's never too late. It's never too late to buy a home, but it's definitely better the earlier you can.
Yeah.
I was actually going to say that, but in a different context. The earlier you can to buy it, but also there's never an exact time to go and seek advice. I think the earlier you can, the better.
Yeah, there's never a perfect time for anything.
You need to surround yourself with people that know what they're talking about, that are credible in the industry, and that can tell you, hey, you gotta take this, and this step in order to be able to qualify. So it's okay if you can't right now. It's okay if they tell you, hey, right now you do not meet the standards to qualify for a home. But hey, in the next year, if you take X, Y, and Z steps, you'll be able to purchase a home. Exactly. So never feel intimidated to visit a mortgage lender or speak to a realtor just because you think that right now is not the time for you because of your circumstances. So yeah, I agree. It's never too early.
Yeah, it's never too early. It's never too late. You could be 50 and you could still take out a mortgage, and you could, like I said earlier, you could have it paid off earlier if you make an extra payment or two every single year. In addition to that, guys, make sure to write your goals. Write down what it is you want and what it takes to get to that point. So, for example, in the example that Jazmine just gave, if the mortgage lender tells you, oh, you need to make X amount of money every single year, okay, what would it take for you to do that? Does that mean taking in another job? Does it mean bringing in another family member? Okay, you need to save up this amount of money. Okay, we already have that money saved up perfectly. So when do we want to buy? And do we want to wait for interest rates to get to a certain? Never wait. If you could afford to now, don't wait for interest rates to go down. But you guys get the gist of it. Try to write down your goals and make it as clearly defined as possible. So when it's time to take action, you already have everything figured out.
And I like that you said before about your lifestyle. If you're right now working in a hospital, maybe you're making, I don't know, 120 grand a year. You get a raise and you make it 200,000 a year. Don't start buying stupid stuff. Don't start buying a yacht. That's a fun one to have. Of course, try to save, try to get a house. Try to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you go out there, you buy, a fancy car. That fancy car is not gonna worth in a month.
Again, but that's if they want home ownership.
That's true.
Perhaps maybe they don't want home ownership, because I know people that homeowner, again, it's not so much pro and con, it's more of what fits for the person. So perhaps you have someone who has the income, they're just not financially responsible, and being responsible is not their priority.
And guys, those decisions are sometimes too hard to make on your own. I don't know if we mentioned this in the beginning, but we are 3 real estate professionals here in Miami, Florida. That's pretty much what we're there, to do. We're here to guide you. We're here to help you along the process, to help you guys understand better, what's the best decision to take. We're not tax professionals. We're not accountants. We're real estate professionals. We know the market. We know, what you need to buy a property today. So
I don't have anything to add to that. Javier?
I think that's all.
That needs to be said. I think definitely take a look at this video, rewatch it if you have to. There's so many different things that we've discussed, and honestly, it's been really superficial, because we can go a lot.
We might have to expand.
We might have to expand, but I think you should be able to make a pro and con list of your own and weigh these into your own life. You gotta reflect and see, where am I at in life and what is a better fit for me. So follow us on all of our social media accounts. We have, YouTube account. We have an Instagram account. We have a TikTok. Spotify.
Apple Podcast.
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts.
We have iTunes.
No, I'm at Apple Podcasts.
We're on every single platform available. Any platform that you can think of. Follow us. Make sure to tune in and subscribe, guys. And share it with a friend. I already said subscribe and I said tune in. But share it with someone that you think this would be of value to.
Yeah, and if you have any question, no matter how tough, how hard, stupid you think they are, there's no stupid questions.
Yep.
The most stupid question is the one you keep it for yourself, because you're not gonna get the answer.
Yep.
Ask it in the comments, and we will happy to address them.
And don't ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives a lot of wrong information a lot of times. I'm telling you, I've already confirmed it myself.
So, thank you for tuning in, guys.
Thank you for tuning in, guys.
Thank you,
and see you next time.
We definitely need here every Friday with us.
Yeah, because she knows what she's doing, but she doesn't want to commit. No commitment.